Good evening, Graham.
Hello, Charles. How are you?
We will not reflect on that.
Yes, I watched the first half and I could feel which way the wind was going to blow.
Well, we won't even discuss it. It's
Okay.
just, it's March. That's all we need to say. And we know
Yeah,
what.
yeah. Beware the whites of March. I mean, night of March.
Beware the idols of March when it all goes wrong,
Mm.
being overconfident. But we won't talk about that. Good evening and welcome. This is the latest edition of Two Big EOs in a Small Car. I am Charles Hutchinson, a journalist, a podcaster, um, man of man of Yorkshire, and here with me tonight is adopted man of Yorkshire, as ever, Graham Chalmers.
You can't get associate membership. There's no way becoming a half Yorkshireman. It's not possible. You're either in the club or you're not in the club.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that you're adopted to the full. I think it has to be said, surely
Oh,
by
yeah.
now.
I do feel it as much at home in Yorkshire as really is in Grangemouth, really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
back home.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So, Graham, first topic of tonight, I guess the big talking point really. Academy Awards, the end of the season of giving awards, and maybe I think it would be fair to say a somewhat surprising main winner. Don't think we'd seen this happening.
Well,
Anora.
having seen Anora, it is a surprise that the film won.
So I've yet to see it. If I were to spend £11, I could watch it on Apple while
Hmm,
Celestine's got Apple TV.
hmm, hmm.
Um, and you're not the first person who's expressed surprise at all these awards. I mean, there was some momentum, obviously, through Mickey.
Madison,
Yeah,
Mickey
Madison.
Madison.
Mickey
She was very
Madison.
good in Better Things, uh,
Yeah.
a TV comedy drama of the last 6 or 7 years,
Yes.
and she
Yeah.
was excellent. That was a sort of quirky family one set in LA,
Yeah.
and she was good. But to be fair, she's got a very short track record. She
Mm.
had a small role in Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Mm.
and so for her to win Best Supporting Actress is was it Best Actress actually against
It
Demi
was.
Moore?
I think it was
Yeah,
Best Actress, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah. That was surprise, but then again, the Oscars or Academy Awards have pulled that as a surprise many times in the past. Many people have
Yeah,
won
but to go with
Academy
to
Awards
go
who
with
who
Best
who
Picture and Best Director as well.
yeah, Best
For,
Picture and Best Director
I
is surprising. Yes.
mean, we're talking Sean Baker, and I mean, maybe they just love the idea of an independent American film triumphing. Maybe they've seen that from overseas, even, and maybe they
I
just think,
think they
well,
had a
America's
problem.
time for
I
that.
think I think they had a problem because Conclave, which was a very good film,
Mm,
very good script, very good
mm,
acting. Well, apart from the fact the ending was a bit weird, it's about the Pope. How
yeah,
on earth can the American Film Academy
yeah.
give the best picture, best director to a film about the Pope? It's not this sort of thing. And as for the Brutalist, well,
Mm.
first of all, it's about an architect, not your usual Academy Award winning
No,
best picture
no.
subject. But secondly, the second half of the film is a bit horrible and not as good as the first half. So that was a bit of a problem. And so what could they give it to? A complete unknown, the biopic about Bob Dylan? Well,
Which, of course, eight nominations, no awards, which is what I
yeah.
predicted. Mm.
So they were in a bit of a hole, but even so, Anora surprised me. I mean, it is a good film, and it did win the Palme d'Or at Cannes,
Yeah.
but
So now,
still,
okay, let's look at it because I've not seen it, but let's look at it from a positive point of view. What might be the reasons? I mean, you now have seen the film, which obviously is far more instructive than anything that I can contribute here. But if we're looking at as to why it won, and I think we've got to ask that question, what would you point to?
it's got a lot of good things about it. It starts off deceptively with an awful lot of sex and an awful lot of drugs, and you think, oh, this is going to be a serious film.
Mm,
And then halfway through, you realize as the plot develops and the tone of the film changes slightly, it's actually a comedy of chaos and a comedy of manners, and it's almost like a screwball comedy. It's basically the style of the film's deceptive. It's directed like an independent film
yeah.
by a director who has a track record in that area.
Mm,
But the film's a bit like if Jim Jarmusch have been asked to direct Woody Allen's Broadway Danny Rose. Except the
I'm
plot of
building
Broadway,
images. I'm building images here strongly from that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but the plot of Broadway Danny Rose, which was about the mafia meets the entertainment world
Yep.
in a sort of like low level, low life type of way,
Mm,
devoid of glamour, has been replaced with a similar story except set in the world of sex workers and Russian oligarchs.
mm.
But it's essentially the same sort of things happen. It's the same tone, but it's directed like it was Jim Jarmusch. And
So
she's good. She holds the film together and she's got an awful lot of screen time. If she isn't good, the film doesn't work. And
you,
she's an anti-hero
yeah,
like David Thewlis's character in Mike Lee's Naked.
yes.
She's that sort of person really. And the beauty of the film is you don't realize that until later on. It doesn't
Mm.
tell the film does not tell you what to think. And the characterization is superb. Every character is believable, well acted, three-dimensional.
Is this a
So
film that will gain status as the years go by?
no, it has a few problems.
Mm,
When it turns into the screwball comedy in the second half, it's funny. It is very funny. But first of all, the film's about 20 minutes too long.
yeah.
I mean, Broadway Down Rose was an hour and a half. This is about 2 hours 20. It just goes on too long for what it's actually trying to do. And secondly, in terms of like being best director and best picture, it has no particular visual flair. There's no great imagery. There's no great directorial tricks or angles. There's nothing clever about it. It's all very low key and very naturalistic. And there's no great lines, no great dialogue. There's not many scenes where, despite Micke Madison's great performance,
Mm,
there's no great lines to remember coming away from the film. And if you think about all the other great films, even the screwball comedies,
mm,
there's dialogue there between the main characters that you're going to remember because
exactly.
it's great use of
Which makes
language. It's
people
really
watch
funny.
those films over and over again.
Yeah, yeah. And this hasn't got any of that.
No.
So I think it's a good film, some ways very good, but it just isn't. It's not as good as A Real Pain by Jesse Eisenberg. If I was saying, I'd be quite annoyed.
Which I have seen, and
Yeah,
I did think deserved more awards than
it
it
has.
got.
Yeah, A Real Pain has better dialogue, better interchanges between the main characters,
Mm,
and a bit more of directorial flair and visual style. So I think A Real Pain is better than Anora, but Anora is a good film. It's just not a commercial film. There's so much blatant sex and drug taking in the first half of the film. It's an
mm,
18 certificate. There's
mm,
there's no way that could be a
no.
huge hit film, and it's
In
not going to be
terms of
watched on a Sunday afternoon on
no,
streaming services or old school terrestrial TV. Whereas A Real Pain could be watched at any time by anybody
I mean,
anywhere,
I thought
and it's a good film.
the directing and writing skills of Jesse Eisenberg were so well judged in that. I've not because I haven't seen Anora. I can't get a sense of the directing style of Sean Baker, but um, I thought
It's like yeah,
the best directing, I thought the superior directing would Conclave was magnificent directing. Not even, I think he wasn't even given a nomination. Berger, I don't think he was even given a nomination, which I found remarkable.
films
And
about the Pope don't win. If it'd
no,
been a film about a nun, that might have won. Because the nun
none.
story
Is
won
that
a
a
lot
case
of
of none
awards
better?
a long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah.
But or individual priest, but it can't be about the Pope. It's
I
just not Academy Award winner.
but I also thought that the directing of the Brutalist is I mean, again, you can say, well, does the film really need to be that long, etc., etc. But given the grasp and of the film, given how it conveyed both brutalism in architecture and brutality in behavior, and did both of those, I thought really, really well.
Mm, mm.
Also brought out brilliant performances, but visually was very arresting. Used music fantastically well as well, to actually award-winning success, of course. That's why I'm surprised that the Brutalist didn't for a director take a director's prize. That for me, the sheer scale of also what he had attempted and achieved in that film. Um, And now, I'm not saying that there isn't something to admire in a low budget independent film managing to make memorable images, but one senses actually that maybe that wasn't particularly the case in this. It might have been directed well in
Well,
terms of how you
it
present
was like
character
it was
and
directed
flow of
like
story.
1980s show. It was directed like 1980s Jim Jarmusch. You
Yes.
know, it's there. The canvas is wide. The camera doesn't zoom in a dramatic fashion. The events are presented plain, and it's up to the audience to react to the events and the characters in its own way, which
Mm.
is intelligent filmmaking. But Jim Jarmusch, who mainly started that trend in the 1980s under the
Yeah.
influence a bit of Wim Wenders, by the 90s, by the late 80s and the 90s, he was adding visual flair
Yeah.
and visual style to that basic template. And Sean Baker, who not only directed the film but wrote it
Mm.
and was the editor, and
Mm.
he cast the cast.
Yeah.
So
Busy boy.
Sean Baker's clearly a talented guy.
Yeah.
So who's to know that who's to not say that in years to come, Sean Baker doesn't make a film like Mystery Train
Yeah.
or Ghost Dog by Jim Jarmusch?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you would imagine now that money will be thrown at him for his next movie.
Yeah,
That would seem
yeah. I'd be
very
interested to see what
likely.
he does because he
Mm.
so far he's stuck to, low rent, low life,
Mm.
low budget.
Yeah.
I'd like to see what he does with star names, more money, different subject material.
Because that is likely to come his way now. The studios will surely be, you know, falling over themselves to ensure that that might happen for him.
He might not want it though. He might stick to his guns, just carry on making the sort of films he's been making already.
And I would admire someone for having the courage to do that if that is what works for him, you know. So of the other awards, Graham, I mean, I guess they were predictable. Adrian Brody, don't think anyone was going to challenge that. Kieran Culkin winning, don't think anything was likely to go against those decisions. And Zoe Zelda, I'm going to get her name right anyway, from Amelia Perez, Best Supporting Actress. You're going to get her name right. I'm not.
I'm not,
Zoe
but
Saldana, I think.
Adrian Brody is a great actor, but Ray Fiennes is definitely his equal,
Mm,
and I think Ray Fiennes deserved it for Conclave because without him, again, like Mickey Madison in Anora,
yeah.
the film falls apart. You have to totally believe in him and totally like his performance,
Mm,
and he's brilliant in it, as he almost always is.
mm.
So I would have given it to him, but I guess it was in the wrong film.
It does look that way.
Mm.
And sometimes, there is this thing by the end of the awards seasons, there's a kind of common agreement on certain things. But that's in some ways why it was such a surprise that Anora did as well as it did. Although it has to be pointed out actually that the awards were spread out between films. I mean, I think four for Anora, but some years you get a huge triumph with loads of awards going to one particular film. They were quite well spread out this time, which I did think was a fair decision and probably more reflective of the fact that actually, as we know, the start of the year has been pretty high quality
Well,
until
last year
until
the
going to
Academy
see the
Awards.
last and still going to see the last Showgirl, which
Oh yeah,
yeah,
the last year the Academy had an easier task because both
yes,
Barbie
yeah,
and Oppenheimer were big box office hits,
yeah,
not just in streaming channels, but in real physical
mm,
cinemas.
mm,
And they were both critically respected. So there were easy wins.
yeah,
But this year, the last year, there's been no major commercial box office hits that were critically respectable.
yeah,
Half of the main nominees for Academy Awards this year, their films had been only shown on streaming or had had a limited cinema release.
yeah, yeah.
So more and more of the good films are now not getting a full cinema release.
Which is
So
which is a
by
concern
definition,
in
it
its
means
way, isn't it? Mm,
they can't become commercial hits. So
mm,
how's the Academy going to reward high quality commercial hits
mm,
if there no longer are any high quality commercial hits? If all the quality films, so to speak, are mainly streaming. I mean, there's lots of great films that I haven't seen yet in the last year
yeah,
because they received almost no
yeah.
cinema release.
I mean, and Anora's having a few screenings here and there, but not a huge amount that you might think might follow the victory. But it's still, you still have to sort of see it at 11 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You'd be very lucky to find it. I think there was one. I think across York there maybe were two evening screenings the following, the week after it won. So still, that tells you, not people don't think even with an Oscar win behind it, there isn't enough curiosity there to justify running it in a larger scale than any number of the commercial films that came nowhere near being
It's
nominated.
not that so much. The more films are financed or entirely produced by streaming channels, the less they will be shown
Mm,
on cinemas on a lot of screens for
yeah,
long run. Because the interest of the streaming channels is to hoard the films they've invested their money in for their subscribers. That's the obvious thing that's going to happen.
it
And this
is.
has been a
Yeah.
problem.
Mm,
This is, I think, this is reflected in what films have won Best Picture over the
mm,
last 6 or 7 years. I
yeah,
think streaming's had a big impact on Hollywood, much bigger than critics are writing about. Mainly because critics themselves know their future lies in streaming, so they don't tend to write negative stuff.
yeah,
But the last 5 6 years, these are films that have won Best Picture as well as Anora.
yeah,
Nomadland,
yeah.
Parasite.
Parasite. Yeah.
Do you even remember Coda? I don't remember Coda. That won Best Picture.
It did win Best Picture, and I did
Mm-hmm.
see it, and I do remember it visually.
No, yeah.
But these it's significant. These are not films that, if you like, are going to be revered 50 years down the line. I don't think. I don't see that happening with them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look back to this slightly similar types of films from the new Hollywood
Mm,
in the late 60s, early 70s, late early 70s to mid 70s, films like Five Easy Pieces and Two Lane Blacktop,
yeah,
Taxi Driver,
yeah,
The Long Goodbye, all those directors like Altman
mm,
and Coppola, The
mm,
Conversation, these were all films which were very, very good films, but they weren't really that commercial. But they did get decent commercial releases. And although they were nominated for Academy Awards, very few of them actually won because they weren't regarded as commercial enough. The
mm.
fact that films like Parasite, Coda, Nomadland, and Anora have actually won Best Picture would never happen in the early 1970s
No.
because there were commercial films of a high enough quality, which were big hits, which the Academy could vote for. Those films increasingly do not exist anymore. So they've been almost forced to reward independent movies in a way they previously didn't.
One thing that strikes me as well, I know people are getting larger and larger screens in their houses, but they're still not the size of a cinema screen. And when we've interviewed Mark Cousins in the past, and he loves sitting in the front row of a cinema because he loves to literally bathe in the cinematic element of it, just the sheer scale of it, the cinema of it. That to me still seems to me a huge part of why I go to films is the scale of the screen of what I'm watching things on. So,
Mm.
and yet, if this is the implication behind streaming becoming more and more important, that means that people are not getting what really is the cinematic screen experience, which
Well, you're right.
surely is part of the purpose of cinema. It isn't just to reduce it to the size of a television set.
Well, it's a bigger problem than that because we've got quite a big television. So
Mm,
when I watch a film now on Blu-ray on the TV
mm,
at home, the visual experience is pretty good. It's not like the old days of a small box television. The difference is this: if you were meant to watch a film with the lights on, with a chance to walk to the kitchen to get a tea, with
mm,
a chance that someone might talk,
yeah,
why do cinemas have the lights off?
yeah,
You're not allowed to talk, and you can't just walk to the kitchen get a cup of tea. It's
mm,
because the cinema experience is based on devoting yourself solely to watching that film. You cannot do that at home unless you live on your own,
yeah.
shut the curtains, turn the lights off, and chain yourself to the seat.
So, and we know that in COVID that increased that form of seeing things because that's actually partly when lots of films started being released that way because you couldn't go out to the cinema. I do think it's reducing the power of cinema, and I do think that's problematic.
Well,
I foresee. I mean, can you see a situation where actually the huge budget no longer matters? The sheer scale of what cinematography can do will be downplayed.
Well, right now it's been kept alive mainly by CGI and by
Yeah,
superhero films.
yeah.
They're still big screen
Marvels of
experiences.
Marvel. Yes.
But the other films, there's absolutely no reason why films that aren't superhero films couldn't be watched at home now because the screens are all bigger.
Mm.
So it's not that you can't enjoy a film at home, you certainly can. And there's no real difference between me putting a Blu-ray in a machine at
Mm.
home and streaming it on Netflix at home. It's the same thing. But if you want a communal experience and you want to be influenced by the audience and you want to share the feelings of the audience,
Yeah.
that can only happen in cinema. And so many great films I've watched at the cinema, the experience has been affected by how the rest of the audience reacts to the film.
Yeah.
And if they all laugh, you realize, wow, this film really is funny. If you're
Mm.
sitting at home, you're laughing a bit, you're thinking like, okay, how funny is this film? I can't quite tell. In an audience, if the film's
Yeah.
not that funny, people just sit there like stones.
Absolutely. There are times when, in the days when they used to do the press screenings in York, and there'd be just me and maybe one other person there. And if it was a comedy and you didn't laugh, and you thought, well, would so I can't. How do I judge this? I feel like if I'm on my own, it's like a wasted laugh. I'm not going to waste a laugh. I don't need to laugh. I can
Oh,
internally
exactly,
find
yeah.
this funny. That's not what
Yeah.
laughter should be about. We know when people go to comedy gigs, it's to laugh together. It's even to laugh at
Well, yeah,
someone else's laugh. At Rob Orton's gig, there's this guy that had this fantastic laugh. And the
mhm.
entire audience ended up laughing about this man's laugh that became funnier the
Yeah,
more we
yeah, yeah.
kept hearing his laugh. Now
I know what you mean.
that only works partly because Rob Orton picked up on it,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
worked with it because that's his kind of skill as he's got his radar on. But that's the joy of live performance, and it's and interesting. I mean, we'll come on to the film that I went to this weekend, which has been described as a comedy, but significantly, actually, no one did laugh in the York audience on a Saturday night watching
Yeah.
this particular film.
But sometimes that's because the film's too tricksy. So the Coen brothers are
Mm,
notoriously tricky because you can never
yes,
quite tell if they mean this to be a drama or a comedy.
yeah,
And they've been like that from the beginning. So the first Coen brothers film I saw at the cinema was at the Leicester Square Odeon in London
mm,
when Blood Simple came out. And I knew nothing about the Coen brothers, and me and my mate from Emory University were there in an afternoon audience watching the film, and we thought it was a serious crime drama and quite dark, and we're sitting there
yeah,
watching it seriously, and the audience is quite quiet. And then, probably about after an hour or so, we both sort of twigged that this was actually supposed to be funny. This is a
yeah.
funny film. It's a bleakly funny film. So me and my friend started laughing at certain bits of the film because it was funny. The rest of us didn't get it at all, didn't laugh, and started looking at us like we were complete idiots. But in fact, we got the joke, and they hadn't got the joke.
But I think, I mean, I really like that. But again, that's why to go to the cinema as well, because the differing reactions are interesting. Which is, I guess, it's the same as going to theatre, where you can have a divided opinions on whether something's funny or not, or whether a show works or not. But to me, it's all part of the fact that we are sociable creatures. And I'm not saying, of course, you can't watch a film at home, but the full experience still on the big screen. I don't want that to die out. I really do not want that to die out.
I don't think it'll totally die out. I think its role will decline,
Hmm.
but I don't think it'll totally die out. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's lots of great bands I've never seen live who I've only watched because of films and Blu-ray
Yeah.
at home. And I love the live performances, but I wasn't actually there.
No.
So watching a film at home is only the difference between watching a band actually in the venue and watching the band on TV. It's still a great experience. It's just not exactly the same great experience.
Absolutely. We'll come on later to the film that I've been to see, which is Mickey 17. Apparently in America it can't be called that because people say, well, I didn't see the first 16 films. So that's an old. That goes back to when George III couldn't be called the Madness of George III. They couldn't call it Madness of George III in America
Well,
because
the
they
Americans thought he was
genuinely thought
taking
there
the
must have been
Mickey.
two prequels and taking the Mickey. Yeah. Now,
Yeah,
Graham,
yeah.
some rather good news, which I was really pleased to read of. Likewise, you are too. That the Beta Band are reforming and will be coming to Leeds. Steve Mason has played here a lot, actually,
Mm,
solo wise.
mm.
He's played loads of gigs around here, not just in York, but in Leeds as well, and elsewhere around here. And I'm just really pleased to hear that they're reforming. I think this is great news.
Well, I wasn't surprised when Blur reformed to play Wembley last year, and I
Mm.
wasn't surprised when Oasis then announced they were reforming for a tour. But the Beta Band were never that big in the first place,
No,
and
no.
you and me loved the Beta Band at the time. They're the best unsuccessful British band of the last 25, 30 years in my book. And I saw them quite a few times, including
Mm.
absolutely brilliant gig at the Fillmore in San Francisco in
Mm.
2001, where the Beta Band were magnificent. So I didn't see this coming because usually bands reform for money. And the reason the Beta Band split up was mainly because they never made any money.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
to come back is quite extraordinary. But it turns out the reunion tour is already selling out and they're adding extra dates. And they're not only playing Britain, they're playing Europe and America. So it's possible the Beta Band are about to become the biggest they've ever been.
So the even better beta band.
Exactly. But they're playing Leeds at the O2 Academy on Saturday, September
Disappointing choice.
27th.
Disappointing choice, Graham. Why can't they play? It's just not the venue I like in Leeds.
What would you like in Leeds then, Charles?
Well, even for I suppose would they play the arena? It's probably probably not the scale they
They're not
want.
definitely not
It's
an
I mean
arena
it's
band,
different.
that's
It's
for
different.
sure.
I know it's different. The academy is the obvious. I just don't like the sight lines particularly there.
Well, yeah, I remember you got formed though there because didn't you
Because
once stomp out of the O2 Academy in Leeds because a bouncer was giving you a bit of jip?
that was a soft sell gig. He wasn't giving me jip. He was making it. We were supposed to have press seats up above. And this was still in the
Mm.
peak, in the COVID era, if we call it that. And the place was looked to me to be, I mean, it was packed to the rafters. And we were told, yeah, you can, if you want to sit down because you haven't got your seats, you can sit away out of view of the stage, just so you can just hear them. You just thought, yeah, really, that's great, And
Can't see you taking that well, Charles. You wouldn't take
no,
that. You wouldn't take that sitting down.
no, exactly. No. So anyway, that's not what's I anyway. It's not my favorite
Yeah.
venue, isn't Leeds O2 Academy.
Okay, but anyway, they're a great band. So
I love places like the Irish Centre. I love, but I mean, I guess size wise, it makes sense. I get it that it's the O2 Academy. So
yeah,
I'm just being a bit grumpy that it's there
it,
now. At the
it's
same
called it's
time,
called the it's called the three EPs tour after the
yes,
first album, which
they
is made up
can.
of three EPs, obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
So I expect to be playing most of that
yeah.
plus tracks from the three other albums they recorded and released in their short lifespan between about 96 and 2004. And
It will
I
be
love the
also
Beta
interesting
Band
to
so
see
much. Yeah,
how they've progressed in the meantime. I mean, Steve Mason's been pretty prolific. He has brought a lot of albums out. So how actually made they
I
possibly interpret the songs a little differently than
I think
before?
musically they'll be better because
Yes, I can see
uh,
that happening. Mm.
they were probably playing live at the end of the analog era when not all things at gigs were digital. So
Mm.
the sound at gigs in general has improved vastly. They'll
Yeah.
have improved as musicians. So I think they will actually be brilliant musically. I think they're probably better
Mm.
now than they were
Mm.
in their, I was going to call it heyday, but they weren't quite successful enough to actually have a
They
heyday.
never had a
But
heyday.
when I saw them,
No.
they were great. But I think they'll be better. I think they'll be even better.
Which is a good
But I
thought.
was
Now,
once, I was so enraptured with the Beta Band that
mm.
the covers of their EPs, one of them they're dressed up as Mexican bandits next to a train. So when I interviewed the drummer Robin Jones from a music magazine Charm,
Oh yes.
rather than putting a photograph of the Beta Band on the front cover, I got me and three friends, including my great friend James Littlewood, who was like assistant editor of the magazine,
Yes. Yeah.
to dress in Mexican garb at Hornbeam Park railway station, wait for a train to come in,
Yeah.
and then someone took photographs of us posing like we were the Beta Band next to the train. That's how much I like the Beta Band. Then
No,
we put it
that's
on the front cover of
impressive.
the magazine.
That is impressive. So we're delighted. But do you have the date, Graham, just for our listeners' benefit? When this is?
Saturday, September the 27th.
Marvelous. Look forward to that. Now, sooner than that, coming up in York will be Richard
Hmm.
Hawley, which has finally actually been announced. I mean, it's been sort of known, but not officially known for several weeks that this would happen. So Richard Hawley is going to play Museum Gardens in York this summer. He's going to play them July 5, I think. Is that right? July 5?
Yeah, Saturday, July the 5th. Yeah.
Right. Now, the day before will be the re-release of Cole's Corner.
Oh, yes.
And he's largely going to, well, the gig is going to be
Yeah.
built around Cole's Corner, and
Mm-mm.
which he's never played in full before. So he's going to play it in full, and he's
Mm.
going to do it with a string section. All this is all just plus points. The list is getting
Yeah, I
big.
know you're a big fan, Charles.
I've always been a huge
Mm.
fan, and it's the first show that is done of this. There'll be dates later on elsewhere, but York has got first dibs on this.
Yeah.
And there's going to be this, as I say, 20th anniversary edition of Cole's Corner coming out, including the 2 CD version with single versions, B-sides, including Some Candy Talking, which I didn't know he'd done a version.
Covered that.
Well, it's on the track
Jesus
listing.
Mary Chain. Richard Hawley did a Jesus
Unless
Mary
he's
Chain
done his
song.
own song called,
It's not impossible,
Some
but
Candy Talking,
I'd like to hear
which is
that.
highly
In
unlikely
fact,
to
the
have.
idea of Richard Hawley doing a whole covers album of Jesus Mary Chain songs is a very good idea.
Yeah, well, so that is on there anyway, as one of the songs. This, of course, is the second season of Future Sound group from Leeds doing a summer of concerts at York Museum Gardens. Just a reminder of the other concerts: Elbow, which is already sold out. That's the first
With
one,
Billy Martin supporting.
and Billy Martin is supporting.
Ribbons Billy Martin, yeah.
Yeah, she's and along with Eliza Carthy on that one. And if my memory serves me right, I think it's going to be Nile Rodgers and Chic.
Yeah.
Who get everywhere basically, but I think they're doing
Well,
the second one.
but they're a bit like your granny's party band now.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I'm trying to remember.
I wouldn't tell Bernard Rodgers that to his face, by the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember who the support acts are for Richard Hawley.
I know it is English teacher, very good band from Leeds.
So having just
and
won
BC Camplight, the American who lives in Manchester.
He lives in Manchester and has played again quite regularly. He's played in York at the Crescent. This is again, I think, another good sign with Future Sound. They think really carefully about who does the support slots on these. So Billy Martin's a really, really good choice, as is Eliza Carthy. And in this case, again, English teacher are on the rise.
Future sounded great though. Future Sound have been going for years, and they've done such a brilliant job in Leeds for a long time. You can always trust Future Sound.
Absolutely. And of course, there's also going to be the comedy festival, the York Comedy Festival, one-day comedy festival again in the Museum Garden. So outdoor live comedy, which is not conventional for comedy. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. With Darrow Breen headlining.
I can't really laugh in the open air, Charles. I need to be indoors.
I don't know. I find I laugh loud. I laugh.
But I've been to comedy shows at Leeds Festival.
Yeah,
I never laugh under a tent.
I never. Actually, it's a good point. I never ever bother with any comedian at any festival. I don't want to watch them there. But that's not to say I'm not going to be curious about this one. Maisie Adam is playing as well, so there you are. So nice.
She's very good from Harrogate. Yeah.
Yep.
I know Maisie.
So that's all good news there. Now, I just to come back to the film that I did see, Celestine and I went to see Micke
17
last night. Now, we touched on the director involved, of course, Bong Joon Ho.
Parasite fame.
Made Parasite, of course. So there's lots of interest in this film because that was made in native tongue. This is made in English, obviously. And it's based on Edward Ashton's 2022 book, not called Micke 17, but Micke 7. So there's already rolling out more versions.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's set in it's a cold alien planet. So there's a familiar territory, plus a spaceship, plus alien beings. So we've got who are called creepers. So we instantly have familiar cinema tropes going on there. On top of that, we've got kind of class conflict going on, the haves and the have-nots. We've got suddenly there are sort of red peaked caps, which is a clear without actually being MAGA, but it's clearly Trump reference. You have this idea of space travel, so you without naming Elon Musk, you start thinking again about why people are wanting to do space travel. What's the reason behind it? So although it's set in, I think 20.
No, is it a satire, really?
Now, here's my point from our earlier discussion. I've heard the adverts, and the adverts quote reviews talking about it being hilarious. Now, this was one of those occasions, and it wasn't. It was quite busy. It was the evening screening, main screening of the night. Not the biggest of the cinemas within view, but enough people there, and I didn't hear a single laugh all night.
Yeah.
Now, there can be that thing of comedy of discomfort as to be who's the first person who's going to laugh. You talked about this earlier when people weren't getting it with the Coen Brothers. You actually,
well, Triangle of Sadness. That was quite a hit film.
Yeah,
a great film, Woody Harrelson. But again, that's like quite uncomfortable viewing. So even though it's a comedy, the audience didn't laugh that often.
So I mean, on one level, it is a satire because it's presenting the worst possibilities, I guess. Not I guess, definitely. of what can happen. So Mickey 17 is the 17th printing of Mickey, and he keeps dying, but he'll keep coming back to life through this printing system.
Yeah.
The film, I got to say, the dialogue remains to me clunky, which is one of the reasons I think that it's
Oh
not
dear.
actually. In one, I mean, I don't know whether it was written originally in Korean and translated to English. I don't know, but it was a bit clunky. And I think that's the other reason why the comedy didn't necessarily work. So even though you had some extreme performances being put in by Tony Collette and Mark Ruffalo, Ruffalo seemed to me to be riffing on a combination of Mussolini and
Right.
Marlon Brando out in the jungle. Um,
I quite like self-indulgent zany movies, so this sounds good.
there is self-indulgence more, I think, in the performance. Like but
Mm.
Ruffalo's, if you want someone to do that self-indulgence, he's your man for that.
He was
So
great in Poor Things, Ruffalo.
absolutely. But I
Mm.
preferred him in Poor Things to this
Mm.
in terms of actually connecting with his performance. But it's one of those films, the more it went on, the more I was drawn into it, even though I've read some reactions saying what happens is that Mickey 17 should have been eaten by the creepers, and then the
Mm.
printed 18th version will replace. Well, he arrives back. He actually they don't eat him. So he arrives
Right.
back to find that Mickey 18 is already there. So you've now got two versions of Robert Pattinson at once.
Ah.
Um, and so you've got all the technology that goes into that.
Is it better than Mel Brooks's Spaceballs?
No, yes,
It
yes, it's a space
is
ball. Of course, that wouldn't be difficult. Definitely
one of
better.
Mel Brooks's worst films.
Absolutely, space ball, and a word that rhymes with balls. Um,
Mm.
of course, authoritarianism is in it as well. So again, modern America comes through in that. I ultimately, despite not laughing once and feeling uncomfortable and awkward throughout the film, I retained a curiosity with it throughout, and I enjoyed performances within it. And visually, it is very, very striking. And he's a bold and ambitious director, just as he was in
Mm.
Parasite. There's certain tropes, yes, that are, but that's fine. I mean, Woody Allen had tropes in his directing. Scorsese has tropes in his directing. You're going to get that. Hitchcock has tropes in his
Mm.
directing.
Mm.
It's how you use them. And does he still surprise? Yes, he does. It's so, and it was intriguing in its way. So I, without having a hilariously great time with it, was intrigued by it, and
Yeah.
ultimately I did enjoy it, albeit perhaps at one distance removed.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a good film to me. It sounds right up my street. But I would say, in terms of the follow-up film to Parasite, which won
Mm.
the Best Picture from Academy
Yeah, it did.
Awards,
It did.
this was possibly as an idea suicidal in terms of your commercial career, if the director even cares about such a thing as a commercial career, which makes me like the film even more.
I I think
It's
he
such a
doesn't give.
silly
I
thing to
don't
do.
think he gives a hoot about that.
Mm.
I think he's
I think that's right.
absolutely into his filmmaking and is not compromising to that. As I say, I did find the dialogue somewhat clunky. And the film unquestionably is in it's messy on one level,
Mm.
because the tone really isn't that clear. As I say, if it is a satire, it's not that clear, although it becomes clearer as it goes on.
Well,
And
as
also,
a
so
man who
go
yeah,
on.
as a man who loves the Casino Royale film from 1967 with Woody Allen,
Yes,
Orson Welles, and a cast of millions, which is
yes,
even today it's still despised as a film.
yes, it is.
I think I like Mickey 17.
I certainly would recommend you go now. Style-wise, if we're looking at what does it remind me of, I guess Metropolis is the obvious one. I think
Mm.
and obviously Alien as well, of course.
No
Um,
Blade Runner influences.
you could see that in it as well. Yes, I mean you know. So, I mean, sci-fi satire. Well, there's an audience for it, and if you enjoyed Parasite, I think you won't enjoy it quite as much as Parasite. But I do still think it is worth seeing, and I do think it's intriguing. And Robert Pattinson's performance, it's well. Was he at one stage an overhyped actor? Has he lived up to that kind of hype? I think this is a pretty impressive performance by him, actually.
I think he's a great actor, but he doesn't pick the best roles for his career or his own skills. I
Mm.
don't know why he doesn't, but he just doesn't seem to.
Okay, let's narrow down the skills then, because that's an interesting point. What are his best assets apart from
Well,
being
he's
good
one of those
looking?
actors who's a star, You can't stop looking at his face.
Yeah.
And he's popular with the general public,
Yep.
but he can also act. He's
Yep.
believable. He's not like a mediocre actor who happens to be charismatic, therefore he gets the big Hollywood roles. He
Mm.
combines both, a bit like how Hugh McGregor for a while was
Yes.
regarded in the same way.
Yep.
But he just doesn't seem to appear in the right films. I don't know why.
Well, talk to his agent.
Well, yeah, it's all a matter of luck, though, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to
Yeah.
get till you actually start the film,
Yeah.
or until the film wraps.
Well, I've been interested. I mean, my instinct, Graham, go to the film, definitely.
That's
Definitely.
good.
So I think we're virtually out of time as ever. No,
Oh, that's a shame, Charles, because I was going to discuss Rosa Luxemburg's Accumulation of Capital, the great left-wing thinker, the great left-wing thinker's fantastic book
Mm.
about what capitalism does to the world, which came out before she was murdered by proto-Nazis at the end of the First World War. So it's a great shame we've got no time for that.
We seem to have at least 1 minute to go. I think it sounds like a subject that can't be done in a minute.
No, you're right. But we're going to have Toby Manning, the great music writer, on as a guest early next month, and he analyzes pop history from a Marxist point of view. So that's the little link to Rosa
That's an
Luxemburg there.
excellent link. So we've managed to bring Marxism in as well. So that's excellent.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic sub-production.